Good afternoon, everyone. Cam Mirambegi here from Alico, and we are looking to have a session today creating cinematic effect in Adobe After Effects. Today is April the 3rd, and we are 1 p.m. Eastern Time from rainy Ottawa. So I'm going to start the session by creating a very basic composition in Adobe After Effects, and just going to close this thing. What I want to create, let me actually import a video file for you guys. So this should make it a lot easier to understand the whole purpose of this one, cinematic. And this is a clip I want to use. This should make it clear for everyone to see what is the purpose of this lesson file. I'm just going to play the clip, and is a short clip of downtown. I'm not sure where, LA or somewhere else. I want to turn this thing into a scene from the movie Blade Runner. So if you remember in movie Blade Runner, there were a few interesting elements were used. For example, Ridley Scott used a very interesting way to show the futuristic buildings that have a holographic images appear on top of it. So it doesn't matter whatever it is, we're just going to put a holographic image on this building, maybe on this building, and maybe on this building on the side, or this one, doesn't matter, whatever the face is available. So we have to build a bunch of holographic images first and place it on the buildings. Of course, the buildings are moving across the screen. This is from an earlier session we had today about motion tracking. So you have to be able to track the buildings in order to put the holographic picture on the buildings. And later on, I need to turn this thing into a future city or futuristic city by adding maybe a little animation there, a 3D animation of some sort of flying, I don't know, shuttle or flying taxi or something like that. The good news is I have a few assets for it, so I don't have to build everything from scratch. But I'm going to import and start with building one of the holographic images. I have a folder called SEQ, and the reason I use a sequential pictures usually because these are very high quality PNG photographs that have very little compression, and in some cases no compression at all. So they preserve the quality of the footage very high, especially if it's a small sequence. This folder is not very large. Let's take a look at the properties. It's a 96 megabyte. There is no way in the world you could have a video with that many frames at 96 megabyte. A raw video will be way larger. So I'm going to select the first one. And at the bottom, of course, this is a PNG file, so I have an option of a PNG sequence. I'm going to select the sequence option. I don't need to look at any other options. PNGs, they're usually good. I want to import it as a footage, and I select import. After Effects imports it as sequential footage, so there is 80 frames in there. After Effects treat it as a video, therefore becomes 2 seconds and 20 frames based on a 30 frame per second. Now my original footage also is at 30 frames per second, so that's a nice thing. I don't have to go interpret the frame numbers. So when I double click on the green screen, you can tell this is a very high quality green screen thanks to PNG that preserve the edge has no compression whatsoever. Usually JPEG does that unless you use a TIFF format. So when I play it, it's just a simple video. What I need to do though, I need to create a composition out of this footage. So I'll grab the actual composition, the sequential, drag it inside an empty timeline to create a composition. You probably noticed something strange about this footage. Now she's been stretched upward. Well, because this footage is not exactly 1920 1080, it's 1280 1080, but has an aspect ratio of 1.5. Most likely, this footage came from a Panasonic camera, especially Panasonic P2. They have the one with a 1.5 aspect ratio. So I need to enable my aspect ratio toggle. If I do that, it will correct and stretch it for me automatically. You don't have to be worried about it in Adobe After Effects. The main composition is actually a square. As you can see, is a 1.0. So when I place this thing inside the other one, After Effects will take care of the aspect ratios. So no scaling requires. You don't have to worry about scaling things. Obviously, the first step to make a holographic image for me is to create a transparency video, because she needs to be a hologram on the building. So I cannot have a green in there. So the green has to be removed. Also, this footage is too short. 2 seconds and 2 frames, composition settings. That's not good enough because I want the composition to be size of the actual city. The city duration is a 410. So I need my composition to match. So I'd go and use a shortcut Control K. I told you DVC Pro from Panasonic is 1.5. I changed the duration to 410. This ensures that if I grab the holographic image and place it inside the other one, everything will look good. But of course, I'm running into a little bit of issue here. I don't want to slow the video down because if you play the video, she's moving in a very slow motion anyway. But what I like to do, I like to create a loopable video. Loopable, I mean not go in and create a manual loop. What I would do is I duplicate this layer. When I said manual loop, I'm not talking about this sort of loop. Like this. This is not a manual loop. The manual loop for me is line up the edge in a way that when you play in the loop, there's no jump cuts between them. Automatic loop is when you right click on the actual sequence or footages, you select interpret footage main and then use an option called loop at the bottom. This is an auto loop. Auto loop obviously plays it from the beginning to the end. But if I want to create a very nice one, this is not going to work. Why? Because the duration of this clip is or was 220. Doubling it is not 410. So I have to create a manual one myself. I select the first clip. I press the shortcut O to go to the end of it. Then I go 1 frame forward by hitting a page down. I select the top clip and I use a shortcut open square bracket. When I use open square bracket, Adobe After Effects line up the 2 clips. The problem with this thing is the last 2 frames, the last frames are lined up, see? But you can see a jump cut. Despite she's trying to keep her head in the same spot, when you're going from one to another one, there's a jump cut. One of the easiest thing I can do is by selecting a first clip and I reverse it. I'll go to the layer, time reverse layer. When I do this thing, the video plays in a backwards motion. Look, there. So I don't have a problem with getting these two line up. But there's one little glitch in there. It hits and it comes back because normally human head doesn't move like that. We don't go and hit something and just our head just comes back immediately. So there's few things I have to do. One of the things is I got to overlap the clips, making sure her neck is at the right spot when she brings her neck back by kind of do a basic trim like this. It's a little bit better. I can even go a little bit more forward. It looks like a jump cut, but it's not. Her neck kind of comes back again. You need to trim it. Sometimes couple of clips, couple of seconds, I don't know when, but you need to trim it. If I play it, it seems all right. Yeah, I see a jump cut. So I'll do another one. I'll zoom in. I'm gonna magnify, and I will trim the last frame of the other one. Let's take a look at this one. So at least the last frame is not repeated twice. Yeah, better. Way better. So I'm gonna play it again from the beginning. Let's take a look. Yep, looks pretty good. Remember, the glitch I had was because this clip, I placed it at the end of the other one, then I inverse the time technically. So when the clips get inversed, don't you think the last frame of this clip and the first frame of this clip are the same? So I had to trim this thing. That's what the glitch was. You need to play with this thing a couple of times to get it right. Now, one other thing I'm going to do. I need to go to the exactly middle of a time code. My time code is a 409 and the 0 is a first frame. Let's just go with a 410. I'm not going to count 0. At the midpoint of a 410, the time code will be 205. Obviously, because a 0 is a number, I have to go with a 204. Now, it would be much easier and nicer if I put this cut right here. Why? Because if I split the video into two pieces, these two layers will meet right here at the center. So when a clip starts, let's say 10 seconds later, the other one have exactly same frame. You can create a loopable animation. So I go at the 204. I zoom into the timeline. I grab this thing, put it right there. I just want to make sure it's done. And the next clip comes forward, or I can select this clip, press open the square bracket. If you don't want to drag things here, let me undo it. If you don't want to drag things, it's fine. As long as you have a playhead, you can achieve that by selecting close the square bracket for the first one. But the problem is close the square brackets in Adobe After Effects, always give you one frame. Look. Always give you one frame. So I had to drag it manually. That's why I've done that. But the next one, I just use the open the square bracket shortcut and it matches. Now if I play the whole thing, you will realize it's a loopable video because look at this frame and look at the last frame. They're identical, aren't they? How did I do that? Again, I calculated where this clip starts. This clip now starts a couple of seconds later, but because they're looped and perfectly symmetrical, they finish exactly the same spot. So when I play it, I create a loopable video. Okay? There is no special jump cuts into it. I wish she moved her head and stops. But Unfortunately, I don't have much of a frame there. See, the last frame, she was still moving her head. If you're shooting video like that, make sure tell the person to move their head and don't move their head for at least 10 or 20 frames. So when you're creating something like that, you create a much smoother result. Again, I don't have control over the given clips. That's why I do production myself. I plan it for visual effects ahead of time, and everything should work properly. In this case, is workable. Now, obviously, I have 2 clips that I need to use green screen to taking care of it. So I need an adjustment layer. Without adjustment layer, I have to apply a green screen filter twice, and that's not a very good idea. I'm going to rename the adjustment layer to chroma key layer. I'll lock the layers underneath. I don't really need to click them. I don't want to accidentally move them around. I select the chroma key, then I go to Effect, Keying, and technically you can use the key difference, the color range can work, the difference matte works, extract works, inner outer key works. I'm going to go with a key light. Key light is one of the most powerful green screen filter available for production, and After Effects bundled it for free as a plugin. So I use this eyedropper and basically select this edge, and this is not a green screen class, so I'm going to change the settings to the screen matte, and if I play it, it looks actually pretty good. There are some noise in the background, like when I see on the black right there. These noises are not good, so I will play with the option called screen balance and screen gain to reduce the amount. This is getting worse the other way around, and I don't have to go very far though, just a very small amount. Remember, if you don't get rid of those gray, you end up with a green pass through it. Looks good. The hair looks good, and done and done. I'm happy with the result. If I select it to a final, select my transparency, how does it look like? Obviously, my After Effects works a bit slower right now because it needs a lot of memory to run it. The hair looks good. I'm happy with the result. That's 100%. I don't see anything out of ordinary. And the mask shows that there are some gray lines here, like these things, these dots. They might pass some transparency through it, but I mean, I can adjust it with the screen balance, or I can go to a screen matte and boost up the white clip. There, and remove all the gray in there if I have to. Again, I'll try not to try to turn this class into a chroma key, a green screen class. I'll try to show you, even at the very basic steps, you should be able to get rid of it. Obviously, when you make a holographic image, I'm going to make her face half transparent. So if you have a little bit of transparency under her chin showed up, I don't think is a big deal. I better save my project before I do anything else. So I'm going to save it as on my desktop as Blade Runner City. That's good to go. Now I need to build my holographic image from this. Obviously, building a holographic image on top of the chroma key and everything else is a very, very bad idea. So this clip, well, this composition called HCW locked backdrop, I definitely need to change this thing into I will call it girl because I have a ballerina and I have a surfer. I have a couple of different ones to make, so I better make sure this is the correct one. What I need to do, I need to make a new composition that matches this thing. I'm not in a business of trying to recreate all the dimensions for it. So probably the easiest way for me is just grab the girl and drag it over the new composition. After Effects build a new composition. I just change the name from girl 2 to girl hollow. So the girl hologram should work. And let's build it. I need some little tricks. First of all, I do need some video effects to be able to add it for holographic noise. As you can see, I have a bunch of video clips. I'm going to select this thing called light leak. Again, these are what I got from Adobe, so I'm not really sure what these things are. I'm going to select these ones to a scanner tag. I think a scanner tag is the one that I need most. RJ35, I have no idea what this one is. I'm just going to import it anyway. Let's just import that one as well. So I'm going to import all the videos. Make sure sequential is not selected. I'm just going to import it. There. So let's start with the this thing. What is this clip is? This clip called 0153 light leak. You know what? That might actually works kind of interesting for holographic images, or also can work as a city landscape because it looks like a city hits some sort of light. What about this one? Same thing here. Yeah, these are a nice lighting effect. By the way, you guys can create these things in Adobe After Effects. These are particle systems that can be created in Adobe After Effects. Maybe I will have another session on particle systems. I don't have this session for these group of the classes I offered this week. Maybe I can have one of the particle systems. This is another one called lens flare. No, that's not what I want. What about this thing? Oh, that's the ballerina video. The good news about the ballerina is you don't have to do chroma key because she's already been fixed with the chroma key. So that's the good thing. The city, oh yeah, this is a one. The RC, oh, that's just a film grain, isn't it? Yeah, well, it is a film grain. And the last one is called a scanner. Okay, that looks kind of interesting. Yes. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to grab the scanner and drag it inside my screen. Obviously, a scanner is way smaller than what I want. So I press S and I have no idea how large. I will just scale it. She's not really moving very much to the side. I'm looking at her shoulder. So how about the scaling at 200%? Oh, no, I need more than that. You know what? I'll make it 300%. There you go. Or 250 might actually work better. Yeah, 250 works pretty well. Remember, the transparency at the end, you won't see it though. If you do see it, then I will fix it. Also, I can use another trick. Holographic images, they don't really have any kind of proportions, right? So I should be able to go to Transform and select the option Fit to Composition. If I do this thing, it stretches it, but at least I don't have to worry about the edge or a top. I don't want to lose anything because in case there are some scan lines in there. So that's another option. I know usually I don't stretch things unproportionally with this scale, but you never know. What I need to do in here is to make sure you can see the girl through the holographic lines. In order to do that, I got to use a method called track matte. Obviously, the track matte works really well with the black and white. This thing is not exactly black and white, but there are some dark, there's some white. So if I stay with this frame, I can change the track matte, not the alpha, because I don't have an alpha channel in this video. This video doesn't have an alpha channel. I'll go with the luma. When I select the luma, this is what happens. You can see her through the holographic lines, the white line. So if I play the video, it looks like this. If I turn the transparency off, told you the edge doesn't matter. See? Even this holographic image was smaller, makes no difference. You only see through that. So if you need to modify the holographic image, you just gotta scale the scanner because you see the girl through the scanner clip. Everything is white, you see her. Anything is black, you don't. Now again, you gotta imagine what this video looked like. That's what you see. Like this. Obviously, holographic images, they have some sort of shade of a blue applied to them that you don't see around. So I need to make sure she's actually more visible. And this is just too dark. So I will show you a little trick. I duplicate the layer girl at the bottom, the composition. I'll place it on top. I will rename this thing. I'll call this thing girl blue. The reason I name it like this is if I call the layer blue girl, and then I have multiple versions of it, like a red or a green or something else I want to create. I know with the green, blue, and red and stuff like that. And sometimes your layer names are long, like this one, for example, and your timeline is short like this, then you end up with a bunch of blue and reds. But if I call this thing girl, 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 then you can see girl blue, girl red, girl yellow, then you can line them up easily, or you can just follow it. Again, this is a trick I learned from Photoshop. Especially in Photoshop, the layer names are short. They don't have much of a, adjustments unless you want to stretch your layer panel too much. I mean, in Photoshop, we don't do that. In After Effects, you can do that if you wanted to, but it's not a good idea. You're going to lose a lot of timeline. One of the filters that I would use to make this holographic blue is my favorite filter. Some of my students, they know that. It's called a tritone. Why? Because tritone doesn't mess with the highlights and shadows. You always keep them to the proper level. All I have to do is click on the midtone and then select the shade of blue I want, like this. Now I have some sort of holographic image. Then I can reduce a bit of a saturation from it. Remember, side to side controls the saturation. Up and down controls the brightness. So I want something bright, a little more saturated. And if I don't like the shade of blue, I just shift it a little bit like this. Again, you can change that thing at any time you want after you made your holographic image. That looks good to me. I okay it. Obviously, I'm going to put that layer underneath of the actual holographic image. Now what happened is, remember, the other layer was transparent. I will change the luma to normal. And if you look, that holographic image will show up on top of the blue version of it. So the blue version is underneath. When I play them together, it creates something look like this. It looks like an image has a problem with the holographic settings. To make a final holographic image look very good, I'll grab another video of this clip, this original holographic or video noise I used, this footage. I'll duplicate that. I'll put it on top. And remember, by default, the track matte turned the layer off, so I have to enable the layer. These two layers must be the same size. So if you scale this thing to whatever, don't go grab a new one from your project panel, because that's a very bad idea. You must make sure these things are exactly same size because they must be frame accurate. The next step for me is I use a blending mode to blend them together. Many different. For example, if I use a add, this is a result. Let's take a look. Holographic image is getting there. One of the best holographic option you can use is an option that can knock a lot of black out and then blend these two. It's one of these guys. I'm not sure which one, but it has to be one of the bright ones. Remember, the first one, the multiply, knock the black out. That's not gonna work. That family of the blending modes are not a very good one in this case. The second one is the one that I want to use, and the third one is not a good idea neither, because it creates a very contrasty effect, all of them. So I need to use one of these guys. Maybe add is too much. I'll use a shortcut called a Shift Plus. Shift Plus led me to cycle through these guys, so I don't have to keep going through the list one by one. So here's add. This is lighten. This is a screen. This is color dodge. This is classic dodge. Look at the difference between color dodge and classic dodge. That's what I like. Let me see the transparency. That's good. That's very good. See? So she's a hologram, not a video. The background has to be either black or a very dark color, because when I use anything like a screen or something else to blend it to the building, it will look like a holographic image. There we go. That looks good. Remember, this holographic will be on top of the building. So where's my buildings, by the way? It's called the city, isn't it? City. So I'm going to make a composition out of this thing. To just show you so far what it looked like, I'm grabbing a hollow, girl hollow, and I place it on top of this thing. If I change the blending mode to add, it will look like a holographic image. Look. When I play it, there. Of course, I will fit it to the building and so on. So you guys getting the idea of creating a holographic image. If I use something different, like let's say classic dodge with the background, then it looked like this. Then it looked like this. Then it looked like a video being played on a building, not the holographic. As I said, most of the time, I don't know what these blending modes will achieve, because the colors in blending mode, they subtract, they add, they divide each other from layer to layer. What I'm looking for a final result. I need something look like this. Therefore, it's a matter of going through the list and find which one works. I thought originally add is the result, and when I select the add, no, not it. It just passed through it too much. So somehow turned out to be the one called a color dodge, classic color dodge. I'm gonna do the ballerina as well. So let's try that one the same way. I most likely for the ballerina hollow, I don't need to use a composition for her, because this composition required because of a loop and green screen. Let's look at the ballerina pic video. I think she was much longer. Where did she go? CC Ballerina. This clip should be way longer than 4 seconds. It is. Excellent. 9. The downside is this clip is at 25 frames per second. So I need this frame, this ballerina, to play at 30 frames per second. So there's no frame discrepancy. What I can do is I can right click on it, go to interpret footage, select main. Remember, if I don't do that and I put this ballerina inside the 30 frames per second, the original is at 25. After Effects need to extend it to 30 frames per second. Now it doesn't slow it down or speed it up. What it does, it adds 5 fake frames. Those fake frames need to be duplicated somehow. Now I don't want to create that kind of issue with this. So I'm going to go to interpret footage and I change the frame rate from 25 to 30. This will make the video play faster, but at least it's safer because I'm not running into a pull down issues. When I OK it, now as you notice that the video plays at 30 frames per second. She just moved a bit quicker. To have some fun with this thing, I can play or interpret it at, for example, 90 frames per second. You know what, I'll go to 100 because the original was 25. So this will give you 4 times the playback. Funny is, look how quicker she goes. So in this case, I don't want to make it look crazy, holographic. I just want to put it to 30. So that should not be a big deal. There we go. Now if I use this thing inside a new composition or create a composition, what's the resolution? 1280, 720. Okay, so I'm just going to grab that clip, make a new composition. This composition will be 30 frames per second. Let's double check it. Yes, it is. Hey, you select one of my presets, my 720p. Interesting. Didn't see that coming. Everything looks good. Now, the clip is much longer than I need, right? What I need is what was the city size? 410. So I can just Control K and change the duration to 410. And here, she's actually standing up. Then it starts spinning. I can have her already before she spins right there. It starts from that point. So that should be easy. I hit the home key, I grab the clip, and I move it forward to the left. Right before she's spinning, right there. Now when I play the clip, she's start from that point. And she stops. Obviously, if I want to make the, see the video of the city is not loopable. That city. Otherwise, if I want to make the video loopable, I have to do the same thing I did with the girl here. I have to put another clip there that this frame and this frame line up, and then I have to spin the girl. But I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this. I will grab my holographic image, the video, a scanner, place it on top of it. This one is a little bit tricky one. So before I do any work, I'm going to turn the scanner off. I'm going to play the ballerina, but I need to show my ruler because she's moving on the screen. I'll create a guideline, one right here. The limit, she's at the left side of the screen. I'm going to play the video. Actually, sorry, I need to make sure my preview display the guideline. there, so I can see how much she's spinning, how far she goes, her elbow gone. So I need to adjust my guideline. I just want to make sure she doesn't cross the guideline. That's good. She doesn't, but she moves and it steps sideways. It stops. Oh, darn. I think I had it there. Let's try it again. That's pretty good. Now the farthest I think her arm goes is that side, isn't it? Let's see. Yep, she's within the boundaries. Excellent. Now that boundaries is the dimension of this guy. Now I know why I needed the guideline. So this gotta look like this. Squeeze it and fit it in there. Thanks to the snap to grid, everything should snap properly, and I don't really care about the height. I mean, I definitely can look into it as well. She's let's say here's the height, isn't it? And the lowest part are her feet. So she should be within the boundaries of that. I don't think she's going outside of the boundaries. Even her finger goes a little bit. Again, it will be a small on top of the building. I don't think anybody will see her fingers missing. But to be sure, here I'll just push it up and down. I'll try to get every bit of this clip as much as I can. Every single thing. I can just squeeze everything I can. Now, if I want to fit it perfectly, be careful, is the anchor point. The anchor point is causing a problem. I'll put it right in the corner. I grab the anchor point and put it on the left top corner. Then I should be able to stretch the video without doing any problem, and it fitted right there. This is more like an illustrator when you're stretching it. Done. And then I can put the anchor point in the middle. It's not a big deal. And I don't need the guidelines anymore. So the anchor point can move back to the center if I needed to. I will go to my view and come on, view, clear guides, and get rid of it. The reason you saw the mouse was moving around because I touched the trackpad on a laptop because my finger is on a keyboard. I think I have to go and turn off that trackpad option while I'm using a mouse because that becomes very annoying, especially on laptops. Show ruler off. Let's take a look. She should not be stepping outside. Everything looks good. All I need to do, go to the timeline, select Luma Alpha Matte. This is what she's going to look like. I believe this works better than the other girl because the way it is, it looks kind of nicer. I'm going to repeat the same thing again. I need another ballerina girl to put at the bottom, and I apply the same tritone color. So I will duplicate the bottom layer. Then I go to the other girl, and this is called CC Hollow. Sorry, called CC Ballerina. I'm just going to call this thing Ballerina Hollow. Just want to make sure I name things properly. This project becomes very crazy after a while. I might end up with a couple of hundred objects in there. So I try to keep everything nice and neat and name everything properly. I'm going to drag this thing underneath and make sure the Luma trackpad is off. I know because that's a duplicate, it still has that feature plugged to it. I select the other hollow girl. I'll go to my effect controls and I'll select the one that has the filter, tritone. I copy it. I go to the hollow girl, select this one, and I paste it. Now she has exactly same color, just like this. She looks like one of the girls in the Star Trek stuff, or the Star Wars. Actually, there's a Jedi with a blue skin, I think. This one, holographic image, I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to turn it on. And if you guys recall, we use the one called classic color dodge, right? There we go. That should work. So let's see. Oh yeah, the background looks black, isn't it? RGB. It is black. How's that? In the info, the background has no color, but when I click or roll over the background is 000 RGB. That's perfect. That's perfect. Because when I go to the city composition, I'm just going to move delete the holo girl. I don't need her right now. If I grab the ballerina holo, it should look exactly the same way. We use add there. Now, if you motion track it, you place it on one of the buildings, she will look like a holographic image on the building. Of course, again, I just use an add here. That doesn't have to be there. You can just use something like a screen or different blending modes to create a different effect. But obviously, one of these guys are producing the best result. So far, so good. The third holographic image I'm going to create is a trickier one. There is a folder I have here called Surfer. Obviously, Surfer is 4K footage from a red camera. As you notice, the footage is a 4096 by 2100 and is a PNG. If I try to import it as a red footage, it becomes very large, but this is a much smaller footprint. So I'm import it. And the good news is 11 seconds at 30 frames per second. That's pretty good. So when I play it, it looks like this. By the way, as you can see under my info, my computer can play it at 10 frames per second. But once played it completely, you should play it normally. But that video is a slow motion anyway. It is a slow motion. Even my computer plays at 10 frames per second. It's a slower, but it is a slow motion. Okay, that a little scared me at first. So that's good. I have a hard time with this. Why? Because this thing doesn't have, well, the green screen to begin with, and also doesn't have the pre-made transparency like the ballerina girl that I had. So what can I do with the surfer? I'll make a timeline for the surfer, but don't worry, I got a secret weapon. The secret weapon is this. In the class I teach, in one of the classes at Adobe After Effects, I force the students to select the surfer, not this surfer, there's another one easier than this thing, and try to track it and mask it. So once you create a mask and track, if you export the mask in Adobe After Effects, you end up with this. Let's take a look. This. You see? So this has already been done. I don't have to worry about it. But I can use this thing as a trackpad. If I put it on top of it, and I use an alpha or luma matte, look what you see. Actually, there's no alpha required because this thing doesn't have an alpha per se. It's a black and white, but the result is same thing as a ballerina girl, isn't it? You can even see the water splashes. This is a 100%. Whoever made the mask wasn't me. Did their best to make the water splashes, but obviously they tried to get even the guy's hair, which is pretty impressive. I mean, that has to be masked frame by frame though. You gotta admire that. So my problem is solved, except, again, the holographic video, I need to know where it starts and where it ends. So let me double check my, first of all, duration. Let's fix the duration, because I don't need to do anything that I don't have to. 410, wasn't it? Let me just double check sometimes. Yeah, 410. So at 410, I've got this. I'm going to go with my rulers again and start by figuring out where the left boundary for it is. The farthest it goes. Apparently, this is my farthest left boundary. And to be honest with you, this feels like the farthest it goes to the right. Oops, not that right. I need to grab another marker and the guideline. This is more like a farthest right is going through. Yep. Now the top and the bottom. This one goes to top, and this one goes to the bottom. Oh no, bottom there. There. Not bad. We can work with this. And at the end of the day, this guy will be on one of the buildings. I think I'm gonna go with this building or this building. So when he's there on a building, if you know goes up, he should be able to fit it. Some of these buildings are, especially these square ones, probably is the best one, or this one. You know what? I'm gonna go with the whiter buildings because we're gonna use the add, and it works better in a whiter building than a darker building. This one you can't really tell through the reflection, but this one is most likely I'm gonna put a surfer on top of this thing. So when I'm looking at this, is more like a square to me, so it should be able to fit. If you have a hard time to fit this thing, then you have to go to tracker and you have to stabilize the motion by keeping it exactly at the center where it is. Not necessarily for what we want to do, and we save quite a bit of time. Funny is how we are going from this morning's lesson file back again to what are we doing right now. The rest of it is the same thing as I did earlier. Again, I grab the holographic scanner, place it on top. Now this is a bit of a tricky part because the surfer, 2 layers contribute to this. So these 2 must be a pre-composition. So I right click on one of them, select both, right click on one of them, select pre-compose. I will call this thing surfer mask. Technically it is. Now I can use the luma mat. See? Except I better make sure the video is properly visible. And I established this is the size I want. The surfer is around this area. So I will stretch it a little bit to the sideways and then stretch it downward a bit. That should be okay, I think. Well, I can do this thing to just double check it. The guy should be on top of it. Yeah, that's good. That's very good. It works. Here it is. I technically don't need my guideline, so I'm just gonna clear the guides. I like the snap to guide to be on. I don't want to lock it. I'm just gonna clear it and get rid of the ruler. Oh, I thought I select clear guides. So if I play it, it should be a holographic. Yeah, it's there. It's good. It's there. I'm going to repeat the same thing as I did earlier. This time, I grab the last layer, I duplicate it, put it at the bottom, I'll remove the luma, put it back to the normal layer, and then I will need the filter. Let me see if I paste it. It still remembers it. Oh yeah, it did, surprisingly. So I have the blue one at the bottom, and I need to duplicate the top layer. You're probably noticing I'm repeating the same thing over and over, and this is the classic color dodge. Done. So now I have a holographic image of this guy. Good to go. One thing about the holographic video that I have, let me make sure this is wide enough, is this video I have called a scanner. The duration of that video is 25 seconds. 25 seconds. And I always use the first 4 seconds of it. Okay? What I can do is to create these holographic images not look identical, because if I put them all in the same building, you guys will see the problem. I'm sure some of you already noticed that if I grab, well, technically I only show you one of them at a time, but some of you probably already guessed it, that if I put a holo girl in here, I'm just gonna make her a little bit smaller, and I put the ballerina holo right here. Now I have this guy called a surfer, which I should call this thing, those are called a surfer mask, and this is called a surfer. I better call this thing surfer holo. So surfer holo, I better put this city at the end. If I put a surfer's holo on top, obviously this is a way larger one, so I better scale it down a little bit. I don't need to really do anything special. All I need to just play these guys. You will see what I mean. Notice that? All three of them are identical because I use the same video clip from the beginning of a timeline for the same amount. Good news is, as I said, the surfer video can be adjusted by basically shifting the timeline of the scanner. So if I go to the surfer clip, grab this thing, go to, let's say, 4 seconds, and I'm just gonna click on this little icon at the bottom of the timeline. There's an option that says in point and out point. This is more like a video editing, like Premiere kind of thing. I can just grab the in point of this clip and bring it forward. The problem is if I do that, I'm gonna move this thing as well. That's why I didn't drag it manually. If I drag it manually forward, yes, it works, but these layers must be perfectly synchronized, otherwise it's not gonna work. So whatever number I type in there, it must match. So I'm gonna type 20, because I only need it for 410, right? So if I type 2000, that holographic is started at 2000. And as you can see, it doesn't match with the other one. And I changed this thing to 2000 as well. What happened? Why they went very far? I need to just double check something. I typed, oh, sorry, you know what? Sorry, minus 2000. My apology. Because 2000 will shift it to the positive. I was thinking like Premiere, but in After Effects, see, in Premiere you cannot pull it backwards. You should push it forward, but in After Effects you can actually do that by typing minus 2000. Yes. Now the video starts from 2000. this holographic image is different. Let's take a look. The surfer has a different appearance. There. Those two are identical with those lines through it, but the surfer has a different one. For a ballerina, it should be, again, very simple. All I need to do is expand my time duration and type, for example, -10. I type minus 1000. So I'm shifting it by 10 seconds. So she's now look different. Different holographic appearance. All three of them, they're different now. First one, the other ones, there. If in reality you run into this issue and you have a shorter clip, you're going to say, well, what about if I don't have a 25 seconds video? Then what? What I would recommend is you grab this clip, you right click on it, interpret footage, and you make this video loop by, let's say, 4 times. Once you loop it by 4 times, the original duration, let's say in my case is 25 seconds. If you make it 4 times, that becomes 100 seconds. And then what you can do, you can make your timeline 100 seconds, and then you push it forward or backwards and start it by a couple of seconds past each other. I know you'll end up with the jump loops, but in a holographic image, you can't really tell. So there's a way around it. I got lucky this time, but you can apply the very much the same trick I used here with the holographic image to make it longer if you needed to. And by the way, if you do something like this and use a composition, you shift the composition, you shift the cut forward, right? So that still will fix your problem. Everything looks good. Now it's time for us to start assembling things. I'm gonna close these guys to give Adobe After Effects a bit of a break and remove the holographic assets, save my project. And I'm going to start by thinking about placing this holographic images on the buildings. First of all, I decided to go with this building, the tall building on the side. And I think one of the pictures look good on that is the first picture we made. The hologirl. So I'll go to Window, Tracker. Obviously, I can go to the Mocha and track it in Mocha, but I want to stay within Adobe After Effects, so I will use an option called Track Camera because technically the buildings, they don't move. So I cannot track a motion. You remember a car, when I did it earlier today, car was the one moving. So if I needed to track it, I'll have to track motion. But because the buildings, they don't move and the camera is moving, I need to track the camera. So I need to wait for a couple of seconds for it to track the camera. So let's wait. You need a stage 1 and 2. Meanwhile, I'm going to drink some water here. And let's take a look what is happening behind the scene. How much memory being used anyway? Oh yeah, I'm maxing it. 28 gig. After Effects, I guess finish tracking, it drops. Funny, eh? When he was tracking it, he used maximum my memory. I believe, and I bet you if you had a 64 gig RAM, the tracker will work twice faster. And this is only 4 seconds clip. If you have a 20-second clip, you need to track. So let's see. I like these trackers. The more I have, the better the result. I'll go to my full screen here and I play the timeline. And they flick on my monitor too, so it's not just on yours flicks. I start by looking at this building. I'll go to the beginning of a timeline. remember, sometimes the beginning of a timeline may work, may not work, but I'm looking at a reference point for a building. On this building, has to be on this building, because if you pick a point on the other building, it's a bad idea. For some reason, it picks the reference point on that end. That is not good. So what else I got? Can I go here some? No. That's why I usually use Mocha for these sorts of things. Oh, wait, I saw something. I lost. Oh, it's somewhere here. I'm not trying to click anything. I'll try to find out where. Oh yeah, darn. I thought it was. This is a guy. Now what about the top of the building? Wait. This is actually, that might work. That might work. So it'll be magnified around here. Let's see what I can do. This is actually pretty good. There we go. I think we are in business. No. Yes. This is good. I'm going to go with this. I'm going to take my chance. I'm going to click here. I'm going to double check the perspective. I'm going to grab the circle here and I'm going to move it. If I'm right about this, when I move the circles along, this is a perspective of that building. It should not fit anything else. That is correct, isn't it? Yep, I like it. So I'm going to right click on one of the selected points, choose the option, create null and camera. I have a null and a camera. I'm just going to make sure I'm seeing it through the 3D camera tracker. And everything looks good. I'm going to deselect the screen. By the way, because I have 3 holographic images, I don't need to make it 3 null objects. I will make them one by one, but you only need one camera, because at any time I select the camera 3D tracker, and 3D tracker is a filter applied to the city. When I select the 3D camera tracker, the points will appear, so I can come back and deal with these buildings later on. So I'm not going to do 3 trackers because it's a bad idea. Null object need to be linked to only one. As a matter of fact, I'm going to call the null tracker null1 to holo girl null. This probably make it easier. And also I'm going to change the color of each layer differently. When I play the timeline, I want you guys to pay attention to the X, Y, and Z dimension. It locked into the building, isn't it? I'm not 100% sure about the this thing though. This Z dimension. Oh, actually, no, it is correct, because if you look at the bottom of a building, the building is tapered a little bit, right? It's angled. So if the building becomes almost in front, angle, almost in front, that is correct. You know what? I'm just being, I'm overreacting. That looks good. It's angled. If not, we can always adjust it, right? So let me go to my project panel, and I need to grab the holo, the girl holo, and this has to come in. Now, I don't need to place the null object over it. Technically, you don't need to, but I'm just going to do it anyway. So making sure this is on top of it, make it a little bit easier to see. Obviously, I need to link them together. Since Adobe After Effects doesn't create keyframes, I need to convert this layer into a 3D layer. If I don't add it to 3D layer, it is not going to follow the 3D camera tracker. After all, I'm selecting a camera through the 3D. So the moment I select the layer into a 3D, look what happens. I'm going to turn it off first of all. Let me make this picture smaller. Let me scale it down for you, like this. But the moment I select the 3D, she has this little 3D icon on it. So once the layer is 3D, I can link and make sure, sorry, the girl follows the holographic image. Funny thing is, it does a little bit though, but a bit weird, isn't it? It feels like it is amplifying it a bit. So I'm just going to turn this thing off and just basically put the thing on top of the building. See what the result look like. Still is off to me. I think it's something to do with the active camera is correct. Why the girl, she moves that much? Huh. I'm correct on this thing. Let me double check something on the holo girl. Is scale to 100%. Sometimes when you mess with the scale, things are not working properly. Why is she moving so much? Oh, you know what? I think I know the problem. I gotta tell you the problem. You see, I try to scale it, but this object, this girl is a three-dimensional. So if it's a 3D, a scale makes no difference. Look at the custom view 1. Okay. Also, the city itself is a background, and she is really, really close. If I look at the hollow null object, look at the, not the scale, but look at the position of the X, Y, and Z. I don't care about the X and Y, but the Z dimension is at 16,000 pixels. So the hollow girl I'm using right now, where's the hollow? Hollow girl here, but where's my hollow null object? Let me show it to you. It's somewhere right there. Do you see the hollow? Do you see it right there in the past? So let's talk about this thing. I'm going to zoom out to see if I can somehow make sense out of this thing and explain it to you guys. That's getting crazy, isn't it, with the 3D stuff? This is the building right here, this guy. The building is right here. The camera is here. So that's a camera, that's the building, that's a holographic image. The holographic image has to be on top of the building, not exactly on top of it, like touching it, in front of it, because I want to create a bit of a depth so when the building turns around, you can see the holographic picture moves a little bit. Again, if you watch the movie Blade Runner, they've done that purposely, so want to make sure that the girl is projected on the building, is not pasted on the building, but projected, not like a real, like a projector, more like a holographic in front of it by a couple of feet, couple of meters maybe. So what happened when I move the camera side to side? She moves more because she's closer to the camera, isn't she? That's the problem. If I somehow be able to push her back, it will match. Now, if I select the position of the hologram and the position of the girl and I link them together, it will look right. I'll guarantee it. Let's take a look. Told you. That's how far she has to go. Now, if I go to the custom view, look at it, what happened there. See it? The null object is right in front of her. Unfortunately, I have to really zoom in to be able to see the null object. Null object's right there, because the numbers are matching. If I want to bring her forward, I got a little trick I got to show you. Coming out of the screen, known as the negative space, going inside the screen, called the positive space. So if I want to bring her forward, I have to reduce that number. By how much? I have no idea. So I type minus 100. That's a 100 pixels. If I do this thing, she comes forward by 100 pixels. Let's take a look. There we go. It's very difficult to show it now in 3D because I really need to orbit them in a way that you guys can see it. It's impossible for me to do it. But trust me, she's actually in front of a building at the moment by 100 pixels. So she's off a little bit. As you notice that when she moves, the edge of the building doesn't line up properly. If you want to make it perfect, you have to remove the minus 100 or lower the number. That number will line up and she appear being pasted on the building. Maybe this morning exercise, when I put a license plate on a car, that was essential, but not for a holographic image. So the next thing I do with this, I just go and scale it. That's a good thing I didn't parent them, eh? So I just select a holo girl and press Shift S and scale her up like that. Because I cannot bring her closer, so I gotta scale her just like this. So having a high resolution picture is actually kind of nice. Also, because I cannot move her down and up, I'm trying, but I can't because thanks to the position, it's been locked. I'm going to do some changes to it. Rather than using a code to lock them in, have you noticed that X and Y is the same thing? I'm going to delete this number. I got another idea. You know what? I'm not gonna do this locking business because I have a better idea. I'm gonna remove the code. I'll put the I'm gonna reset her, by the way. So let me expand the transport. I'm gonna reset. All I need to do, I need to steal. Now I know why she's moving too early. See, she's closer to the camera. I just need this number. I just gotta copy this number because I need the depth. If I paste it in the position here, we should be in business. There. She's correct anyway. The advantage of this thing is I can freely move her anywhere I want. And she's on a building. Look. I needed to scale her to the size I want, but I found out when I scale her to this proper size, I end up with a problem of center her on the screen. I want her face to be centered perfectly. If I blend it or mask it, it's going to cut half of her eye. So is that going to work for me? Like this. I want she to be like this. I don't want her hair. I want her face to be on the building. Large size. And also, maybe the height of the building. So I might have to even scale her up even more than that to make sure to cover the entire building. This is a one big gigantic holographic image. And then the number here, all I need to do, just reduce the number. By reducing it is a 970. I just bring it to like 900. I'll bring it by 70 pixels forward. And look. Again, I put the opacity to 35% so it's more visible at the moment. So now I'm happy with this thing. The edge. The edge is very straightforward. I'm going to mask it. I would use the pen tool And the problem is at the beginning, I can't really see the building. I need to see the edge of a building properly. So that is a good starting point for me. Yeah, that will work. And the mask should follow it. Yes. As you can see, mask was outside of the screen. I could have just guessed it at the beginning, so I had to start from somewhere that I can remember. Anything I put in that tracker in this thing, because it's a 3D and a camera tracks it, is been locked into it. That need to be adjusted a little bit. The rest is a history in here, my friends. All I need to do, put it to 100% there. I need to adjust the, oops, that was a bad idea. I just need to select my mask and just make sure this point is there. I will expand the mask by pressing M and make the mask edge a bit more feather, because after all, it's a holographic image. And I can contract and expand the mask based on what I want. The last thing I would do is change the blending from normal to add. And here, this is the result. So when I play it, it looks like this. Of course, my After Effects is struggling right now to render it, but you can see that's a holographic image being projected on the building, not being pasted on it. As I said, it shifted a little bit, which actually add to how to look like. So that's one of them. I'm gonna do the next one. Obviously, I'm gonna repeat the same thing. I'm gonna lock everything that I don't need to touch. And to make my life a little bit easier, I can make them shy, so you don't even need to see them. I select the city, the filter, and because I already tracked it once, I can track it again. As far as this building goes, I need to find a spot for it, and there's a bunch of them, but I think this is the one I'm going to use. The spot is not, none of these things are ideal, but this one seems all right from a perspective point of view, because the third one is off the building, but at least, excuse me, at least the perspective is correct. So I'm going to right click on one of these points here, select null, create null. I definitely change the color of a null layer by right clicking I guess I cannot really right click on the null, so I'm going to right click on the layer. I'm going to make this thing into a peach color. So at least this null is not going to get with the same other null. If I double click on it, I'm able to go to the layer and change the solid settings and make a null in different color too. So at least this null icon is different. And then the layer is different. Because if I open the other null, as you can see, one of the null is green with the red layer. The other one is a different layer. I don't want to have too many red layers here to make it things a little bit more complicated. This will be named after, I think I'm going to go with the ballerina girl. So I'm just going to call this layer ballerina hollow null. Obviously, I'm going to hide everything that I don't need. And let's take a look at this tracker. He's decent. This part I wasn't really sure the pointer After Effects give me from the building on the side gonna work or not, because as you notice that every time we go forward, that building that one of the third point of reference is getting far away from the building, because the camera is rotating like this. But I hope they stay in the same plane. We'll find out when I put the actual ballerina hologram on it. So where's my ballerina holo? I put it right there. Obviously, I need to turn it into a 3D layer. And if I expand the position, I don't think anchor point makes any difference. No, anchor point of the null object is set to 0, but the anchor point of the ballerina is different. So I'm going to go with the position. As I said, I can lock him in. If I do that, then it's not going to look right like this. Obviously, the ballerina will be way smaller on top of the building. It is correct though, but the angle is twisted and something that I don't really like about it. So I'm going to type the numbers manually. I'm going to reset the ballerina by opening it up. Reset. And also I'm going to look at my orientation. Orientation is interesting. You find out, see how it look like? It's not exactly correct. Funny. I thought this is supposed to be horizontal. Well, maybe you need to do some adjustments to it. I need to rotate the Z value like that. Now when you're looking at it, it doesn't look right. I thought my holographic and 3D camera was okay. No, it doesn't look right. Because if it was on top of the building, don't you think this is supposed to be parallel? Let me turn the holographic girl off. Don't you think that thing's supposed to be parallel to the building? The red one? Because if the green one is fine, the X is fine. The Y is the problem. Oh, sorry, that's the Y. The X is the red one. So I need to do a bit of a rotation. This is fine, but I need to rotate the second one, Y, there. Now let me readjust the angle of it. I guess this is a bit weird, so I'm gonna do it manually. Not you. I'm gonna lock the building, and I'm gonna grab a null, and I'm gonna adjust it. Selecting a null sometimes very, very difficult to do. So this rotated this way. Also, this rotates it correctly. So I think it needs to be rotated also this way as well. There we go. Are we there yet? This. I think this is the most correct one I can get. Let me take a look. Perfect. You see the tip of the arrow, the red one? Maybe just a tad. And this one, a tad rotated. So what I'm thinking about is this floor of a building. The tip is right there for arrow, and this is if I count 1, 2, there's a little line here. If I play the video slowly, you guys will realize those arrows are exactly the same spots. How's that? That is good. That is very good. So even I had a 3D camera, I told you, because the third point was on the building, I wasn't getting away with it. I wasn't getting away with it because the perspective was off. I need a 3-point reference on the building, not the building beside it, because the other building is shifting to the side. And who knows, that building is not exactly beside it, it's actually off a little bit. If you really look at it, this goes forward, it's going to hit right in the middle of it, or a third of it. So the building is actually farther away in 3D. This works, as you can see, I can override it. So once I override it, there's a couple of things I need to adjust. This is the first number I need for the holographic ballerina. I need the Z depth. So she's there. If I put her, oops, I gotta be careful with that. The position, I can move it manually forward. These numbers are really large. And I'm gonna place her right there. So let's take a look. If I play it, it should be all right. She's on a building at least, because thanks to the null object. However, the rotation is off. I can link the rotation. Remember, I don't want to link the position because, or orientation, because position, I need to adjust it. I need to make sure she look right. So this can be linked. I don't think I have a problem with that. There, told you. That I have no problem with. But when it comes to the scale and the position, I have a bit of a issue because I like to move this ballerina, let's say, to the left or right side. Maybe the left or right looks better. I don't know yet. I definitely will scale it just for a test. And notice that here I can put the ballerina at the edge of a building. Be careful when you're moving it in 3D. You better grab one of these guys, otherwise you can move it into a wrong space. Like I'm talking about the depth. And these are identical sitting on top of it. So let's take a look. It should be nicely done on the building. Perfect. It shifts a little bit. But again, that's a holographic picture. And I'm going to bring this thing forward slightly by reducing a number. So I can shift it a little bit to the left. If I play it, it looks very good. It looks very good. I don't have much of a problem with this thing. Just gotta change it from normal to add. And that's how it should look like. So if I turn this thing off, you guys don't see the bounding box anymore. And you know what's interesting thing is, her arms doesn't go off the building. Right there. Aren't we like the lucky ones? There you go. That's done. So 2 done, 2 more to go. Actually, 4 more to go. Because there's one more holographic has to be added, but then we need the lighting, the background, color corrected, and then add the spaceship. That's the space shuttle. That's a difficult one to do. So let's move on to the next one. Again, I'm going to lock these 2 layers, and I'm gonna make them into a shy layer. So these are the number of the layers I have. If I don't shy the layers as I'm going, it becomes difficult to manage it. I hope the last holographic image should be easier for me to do. I really hope, because this building, I probably kept the best one for the last. This building has so many points that is kind of hard to miss a good one. Because when I play that building, the whole track pointers on that building is, some of them on the sides to turn on and off, but most of them are good in there. So I'll try to stay with something that stays on. I'll keep an eye on this green, by the way. You probably notice which one I'm picking up. That green. Look at that green there. It's the one of the last one. It doesn't go off the screen. So that green is gonna be one of the main points I need to pick up. This green, this one. So this is the area I'm thinking of. These three amigos here. The where was the green, this red, and this blue, right in the middle. Because if I look at those three constantly, notice they stay on completely from the beginning to the end. That is the one. And the perspective is correct. I right click, select null. Obviously, I'm going to change this thing to surfer hollow null. And of course, typically this is attached to the floor, but is not correct. Remember, if the angle is not correct, then when I put the holographic image on, it's not going to look pretty good. I have to make sure this is correct. So this time I'm not even bothering to bring anything in there. I'm going to lock the background layer, and I need to fix this thing. So let's take a look. This should be easy. I'll use the rotation, and I need to rotate this thing first of all, the Z. I'm cheating. I'm using the building floor as a reference guide. And now this thing has to be there. I cannot rotate this thing. If I rotate this thing, it rotated this way, then it's going to mess everything up. Despite my Z depth looks correct though. If you look at the roof of a building, it's the same angle. See that angle from the roof and this thing? Looks the same. So what I need to do is rotate the Y to get the X correct. And then rotate the Z to get the X correct. Then I rotate this one to get the Y correct. Makes any sense to you guys? I know it looks really weird, but you have to rotate them in a certain way, the three of them. I learned 3D before I learned 2D. So basically what I'm saying is, I learned 3D programs such as 3D Studio Max actually was a 3D Studio on DOS way before it was Adobe Illustrator. I didn't have access to CorelDRAW Illustrator. So I learned 3D before I learned the 2D drawing, the flat drawing. So I'm kind of get used to it in a way. To me, I understand this thing much easier than a 2D. And again, it's just like a real world, right? When you're rotating and adjusting something. There. That looks pretty good to me. When I play it, obviously I have to enable my option to display the edge. So let's take a look at it. Looks very good. Looks very good. Just a tad, I need to rotate it. Just a tad. This way. A little bit. Looks pretty good. That is good. Happy with it. Now, where is my surfer hollow dude anyway? Surfer hollow, surfer hollow. So I'm going to bring a surfer hollow. Again, I'm going to rename the, rechange the color in here to the blue color, for example. And I'm going to literally double click on the icon of the layer and change the hollow solid layer from green to something else. So I have 3 different layers. Yeah, there should be different hollows. Perfect. Every hollow is different. And this is what the surfer did look like. Obviously, I need to turn it into a 3D layer. The next step, if you remember, was expanding the transform for both of them. Obviously, I'm going to link the orientation again because I don't want to copy paste 3 sets of numbers. So that's done. So now the surfer has this holographic lens that I can turn into a hollow, simply changing it, and now it looks like it's actually floating on the city, like this. The next step for me is to get the X and Y, the position right. The position should be straightforward. I can just drag it over. And the one I really care about is the Z depth. All I need to do, copy paste this one in there. Then I bring the numbers slightly forward. The rest is good. All I need to do is zoom into the screen. Be very careful. I cannot touch the blue number or blue arrow because I already adjusted by typing the numbers. All I need to do is use these two. This is the X. As you can see, I'm moving the mouse really much, but it moves very little. It comes on a building eventually. See? Eventually you can put it on a building. And same thing with the Y. I can just move it up and down a little bit. I think I made a mistake. I drag it in the wrong way. So as you can see, my position being changed. So the numbers are very similar. I'm just going to copy paste this thing one more time here. And yeah, I still have to drag it manually like this. Sorry. The problem is if you don't see the X, Y, or Z number in front of it, then you run into a bit of an issue with the with this. I don't know why my Z keep moving, but anyway, it's all right. If I play it, it should be all right. It is good though. You can see how the tracker works and the bounding box is locked into the building. So let's take a look at it. Right there. It's good. The only thing I got to do is just adjust the scale of it. Of course, when I'm adjusting the scale of it, because that surfer wasn't exactly in the middle of the screen, it might become completely off the screen. So maybe originally I overreacted and brought it too close to it. I just got to push it back a little bit, like this. Let's take a look. I know it takes taking a lot of computer power. I have no idea how much memory it's been using right now. Oh yeah, it's getting there. Definitely it's getting there. So let's see it. That's good. Surfer, I wasn't really sure about it. Remember, the problem with the surfer was it was just jumping too much back and forth and it was moving too much. but the perspective is correct for it. Yeah, I couldn't rely on that one. I'm happy. I'm just gonna lock these two layers, and I'm gonna make him into a shy. I'm gonna turn the shy off, and everything looks good. I'm done with these shy layers, but it takes a lot of computer power. As you can see, I'm kind of running out of the memory, so I'm gonna run them in a proxy by clicking on this little line twice. And what it does, it runs them at a very low quality, pixelated. It still uses a lot of memory, even I'm doing my best. Even the background, if I run it at the proxy, it goes faster, but it still uses a lot of memory. So I would put them in a normal settings, but I will turn these layers, holographic layers, off because I already done them and I know they look pretty good. So I'm going to turn all these holographic layers off, and I will continue. Oh, I forgot to make a surfer hollow into an add, add, and that's the surfer hollow null. Why have it two of them? That's a ballerina. Sorry, is one of the layers missing? Surfer hollow. Why you went down there? Huh. Strange. Anyway, I just want to make sure these two guys are grouped. Ballerina hollow over the ballerina, surfer hollow over the surfer, and the hollow girl over hollow girl. Okay, that's good. This is the guy. This is the next clip. Ballerina. As you can see, as the layer goes forward, it gets a little bit crazier. The 3D camera tracker. I usually put that camera tracker on top of everyone, so if I need it, I know where it is. I'm gonna lock everything, and everything will be hidden. All the layers, except the background, and also I'm making into the solo, so I don't need to see them. Okay, now everything is done except the part that I need to build the rest of it. First of all, to make this looks like a futuristic city, holographic image is not good enough. So I need to have some sort of shuttle, for example. I double click in here, and when I go to that folder I have, there is actually a clip here, well, folder called a drone. I'll select the very first one, and I make sure it's a sequential. I import it. I'm going to double click on a drone, and the drone is 1287 20 30 frame, 4 seconds and 10 frames. Now this drone, I'm going to play it for you guys. I want you guys to take a look at it. Of course, the drone is a 3D program. I'm not sure what or who made it. It's Adobe stuff, so Adobe gave it to me. But one thing is for sure, drone made for the background. That's why it's exactly the same duration. The drone, whoever made the drone, they did motion tracking, the Adobe After Effects. So we don't need the 3D camera tracker to be able to link the drone. If I place the drone on top of the city, you will realize it's already been tracked into Adobe After Effects with 3D programs. The only thing I have to do with the drone, most likely, is to scale it. I don't know, 200% maybe? or 150. I think 150 is the correct number. Yeah. The reason is the drone is at 1280 by 720, but the background, the city, is 1920 1080. So that's a 50% smaller. I don't know why they've done that. I mean, when you render it, of course, it's faster when you render at 720 in 3D. A lot quicker when you render and export. Maybe they had a problem with the duration or something else and the time to render it. But if I don't want to scale this thing, I put it to 0, I put it to 100. You're going to say, when you scale it, you're going to lose the quality. That is absolutely true. But After Effects has an upsampling or upscaling feature that I can go to the effects and preset and use that thing called upscale. Now, the upscale, it's called detail preserving upscale. This is when you have a 720p video, you want to make it to 1080, or you have a 1080, you want to make it 4K. It actually does help quite a bit. So I drag it over, and then in here, I have an option of a scale. I put the scale to 150 here. You probably noticed the original footage still is the 100%. But the upscale now upscales it and is way sharper. It's amazing. They use a lot more computer power, but at 100%, it looks almost as sharp as that at 150% look like. I can increase the amount of details to preserve at 100%, and now it's super sharp. Look how sharp it is. Versus, let me do something else. Let me grab another version of this thing, another drone, and put the drone on top of this one. And then I will scale this thing to 200% or 150%. So the top drone, the one on the left side, is the one that I just scaled it. The one on the right side is the one that been upscaled. Now you guys can tell a difference. You can see the details, don't you? See how sharper this one is? Look at that part. Especially this area right here. I'm not sure how well you guys can see it online. I know there's a video compression applies to it. But definitely I can see much more details on the right side. I'm not saying Adobe After Effects is better than the one they use in Hollywood. In Hollywood, they use a proprietary upsampling software. Because if you, for example, make a movie with a 3D scene like this, and you, for example, render it at 4K, it might take something like 2 years to render it. But if you render this thing at a 2K at 1920 1080 rather than render at 4K, it might take you only 6 months to render it. So it's a quarter. So when you double in the size, it's not like you doubling the duration of a rendering. You know, you quadrupling it, because is the 2K is that much, the 4K is 4 times the size of that, because it doubles vertical and horizontal. And in 3D, it takes much longer to render. So what they do in Hollywood, they render at 2K. Funny is, a lot of movies you see at cinemas or Blu-ray, the 4K Blu-rays or Ultra HD, they are 2K. They upscale it to 4K. Of course, it's not this filter, so don't say you cracked the code. No, it's not. The filter they use, they take them 6 months to render it. That's right. 6 months to make it from 2K to 4K. But they save a year, isn't it? And you cannot tell a difference. If you have a 4K Ultra HD, look at it. I'm not saying all the actors or actresses. No, I'm talking about the 3D stuff. Like in Marvel, when you look at the Thanos and all the goons he has and all the animation stuff like that they do, they make it a 2K upscale to 4K, but the result is actually very impressive. So keep in mind that this will slow down our process quite a bit, but again, desperate times calls for desperate measures. So if I scale it, it'll look blurry. This looks super sharp now. Drones, they have one thing that all comment in very much all drones, especially these space age drones, is they have engines that produce heat, right? This one is a fan that pushing it down, of course, but there are two jet engines apparently in this size. They're pushing heat out. So I do have animation of that. That's right. I'm gonna go to my project panel inside my folder called particles. I'll select the first one, use as a sequential, and import it. When I import it, I'm going to play this. Let's take a look how it'll look like. Look like this. Of course, this is transparent thanks to PNG format. PNG 24-bit has a transparency. And what's interesting about this clip is this is perfectly frame matched with the other one. So I need to put it right underneath of it. I'm going to call this one, sorry, wrong shortcut. I'm going to call this layer drone. Makes sense? And I'm going to call this thing exhaust. So no confusion, because both of them look almost identical. And if you want, I can change the color of this layer to red. So at least the exhaust is red, the drone is, I change this thing to green. So at least I know which one is which one. So when I'm selecting exhaust suddenly doesn't line up because I did not scale the exhaust. Now there is a kind of fine line here. Exhaust is something I don't want to enhance. You're wondering like, why not? Well, because exhaust is supposed to be blurry. If I enhance it, then I need to blur it again. So it's kind of like a counterintuitive. Exhaust is supposed to be heat coming out of the engine. So it's not something you can see. It will be made of a distortion, but it has to line up with the other guy. So I will use the same filter, but I'm basically punching myself in the gut. Shouldn't use that filter anyway. In this case, I have no choice, but I put the details to 0 because I don't want to enhance any kind of details in there. And definitely, I'm going to leave it to bicubic is fine, just for now. When I play it, they should line up. If I put it on top of it, you should be able to see it better. There, notice I told you to line up? Because they're coming from the middle of an engine, so that is correct. Yes. Maybe it's a good thing I put it on top, right? Otherwise, at the bottom, it'll look kind of funny. All right. Now, of course, I don't want to have a exhaust like that. That just looks silly. So what I need to do is making sure this exhaust look like a real deal. So what can I do with the exhaust? First of all, exhaust has to be a composition because I need to apply a couple of things to it to make it exhaust look realistic. So I'm going to right click on exhaust This might backfire due to the detail upscale. I hope not. Let me try it. I'm going to select pre-composition. Exhaust wave, exhaust heat actually. Let me see. No, you know what? It's good because I lift the attributes here. And as long as I don't scale it elsewhere, I should be fine. Because this is still small. Perfect. Yeah, that works. But if I move the detail inside the composition, that would be a problem. There will be a judgment for me because I will be done. I have to do it again differently. I double click on exhaust, and this should be a correct size. Let me double check. Perfect. Perfect. That works. Actually, maybe not. It should work. Hold on. Maybe not. Maybe. I'll try it. If it doesn't work, then well, I'll do it later differently. Let me try it first. The problem is I need to put a city underneath of it. That's the one I'm kind of not sure about this, because the city is 1920 1080. If I put it underneath of it, I'll see part of the city. But in reality, at the very beginning, the particle is scaled at here, isn't it? Oh, you know what? I don't think that's a good idea. This filter. Yep. Notice that what happened there? When I apply the filter to the pre-composition for exhaust, it stretches that one. Yeah, I told you there will be a problem. Yep, that's not gonna work. So I'm gonna undo, and before I create the pre-composition. Yeah, sorry, it's not gonna work. I'm gonna leave the drone alone, but exhaust cannot have this detail enhancement. So I need to scale it to 200%. I knew something, or 150, sorry. I knew something wasn't adding up for me. Well, at least you know why. The city also gets smaller. So I'm gonna grab the exhaust and make a pre-composition. Exhaust heat. Now when I go to the exhaust heat, this composition, it still is correct, and I'll need a city underneath of it. City. Now what I need to do, I need to make sure you can see the city through the exhaust. Why? It's called the track matte. When you see the city through the exhaust, this is what it look like. See? What I try to do in here, I try to create a heat wave. So when you have something like, I don't know, a source of a heat, pumping heat outside, don't you think you will see a distortion behind it? I don't want you guys to see that yellow shade like that. I want to see buildings behind it get distorted. Like this wave will make a distortion to this building. You can see the heat intensity coming out of the engine warps the buildings behind it. In this case, I need to create, first of all, a track matte to be able to see the buildings through the wave. Because I'm going to apply a wave to the building. Let's take a look at my wave. I'm going to go to effects, distort, I'm probably going to use something called wave warp. You see what the wave warp look like? I used it yesterday to create that thing in After Effects. The solar. So I'm going to change the wave height to way lower than 10. Yeah, I need more distortion, more like a wave. So maybe 5. Wave height, I'm going to change it to 50. That'll be more. Sorry about that. 50. Now this, if I play it, it look like this. I don't know why it stops though. It shouldn't be in a keyframe. This should just play. The reason it stops because probably my computer ran out of memory at a minute. So I have to just kind of like play it. Yeah, it still moves. Yeah, it was just a RAM preview. So notice that here at one time the buildings are flat because a building is moving to the side and you can't really tell. I need to increase the speed to 2. Now if I play it, the wave should be faster. Yes. You can see through it now. One other thing I need to do is the direction. The direction is the one that creates that little effect. Notice how when I'm moving it, the screen, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, the screen get distorted. In order for me to do that, I'm not going to create a keyframe. The keyframe is pointless because I need to change the keyframe between 0 and 360 constantly, and I don't know where this thing is. So I need to create a script. I expand the layer, I expand the effects, I expand the wave warp, and again, the heat doesn't go circular motion. The heat wave, it couldn't go any direction. So for me, the best thing to do is alt-click the direction and type random bracket 360 close bracket. Random 360 creates a number randomly between 0 and 360 per frame. So if you go frame by frame, you can see the number is different. See the 350.4? The next one, 279. It could be anywhere. So when I play it, it creates this wiggly effect. See it? I know it's difficult for you guys to technically see it online, but if you grab any video in Adobe After Effects or any photo, all you need is a photograph really, and then apply the wave warp and do exactly what I just did. Create a keyframe. Well, don't make a keyframe literally. Create a code expression called random 360 and play it on your own Adobe After Effects and look at the wiggly thing. Obviously, increasing the speed will create a better result. So I'll put the speed to 10. This should create, I don't know how you guys will see this thing online when I stream it, but on mine looks like a distortion of a heat coming out of the exhaust. And guess what? If I change this thing into the luma mat, when I play it, those guys, they have a distortion to them. Now, funny is, if I put it on top of the building, you can see it, don't you? Do you see it right there? Right there, that building, right there. Have you noticed that building has distortion right to it? It looks like one of those time machine movies, eh? Right. I know I'm exaggerating here. I just want to make sure you guys see what this thing's supposed to do. Maybe the speed was too much on my wave warp. So I'll go back and put the speed back to 1 to tone it down. Maybe my wave height was too much. Maybe my wave width was too much. I don't know. I got to sit down and play with this thing until I get it right. But so far, it looks okay. Obviously, I can create another exhaust to make it a little bit more interesting, because the exhaust looks a little bit too plain. I'll duplicate it. And now, as you can see, the exhausts appear to be a bit stronger in a way. Yeah, one of them was just not enough. There. So when I go to the city and add it, you guys can see a bit of a ghost in there. But that's what I really wanted. The next step is for me to blend it. Obviously, the exhaust can be blended. I just gotta make sure my layers are in the right spot. If I change it from normal, for example, to something like an add, you guys can see it better. If I change it to lighten, there, I see a bit of a distortion here. Maybe I need to do a bit of a fixing to get this thing look more decent. Yeah, let me go back, and if I select luma inverted, what this thing will look like. Just running a little experiment. Let me turn this thing off. Luma invert. That looks interesting. Ah. So that's a luma. That's luma enable. Why these two layers? Oh, you know what? These two layers are locked to each other. That's fine. One thing funny you gotta remember is, because I use a script called random 360, maybe that's the problem I have right now. If I go to this frame, whatever it is, I'm gonna go to frame number 29. At frame 29, look at the value of my lower layer is at plus 122.4. But if I select the top layer, probably has a different number. Yep. Another problem I just find out. This is not going to happen. This is a bad idea, because the two codes generate random numbers. I want them to be identical. So I use an alt click and turn this thing off, then enable it again. Then I connect it to this one, because I want both of them to have the same number. Now there, you don't see a ghost anymore. They look the same. I think this will solve my problems. I've only seen one thing. And still, I'm not getting the desired result I want from this thing to create the wave. And also something else I noticed, when I put the exhaust over the drone, this exhaust actually make the part of a drone disappear like this, which is not a good idea. But if I put exhaust underneath of a drone, the background looks better, more distorted, but now I lose that little effect there. So I have to also address that issue. I can address that issue by using the option like a mask or opacity or something like that. But definitely this looks better when he's on top of it, for sure. But you got to say, well, you can see the building through it. That's true as well. So I think for a time being, I just put it underneath of it. It solves many of my problems. The wave is something I have to still deal with, because to me, the amount of distortion applied to the wave is just a bit too much. And I think the answer will be done with the opacity or something. I can just knock the opacity down to much lower number. So when you plane it, there, see it? It's there, but it's not distracting you too much. Let me render it for you. There you go. I see one of the buildings, they appear distorted too much. There. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's definitely there. You guys can see the building behind it changes a little bit. This one, I see a massive amount of ghost here, though. And I probably can contribute it to this. If I turn the top layer off, maybe tone it down a bit. Yeah, it does. It's a matter of just playing with it, finding how much of a wave warp affected. Wave warp can be also reduced. Let me turn the luma off by the width or the height. We just make it very little, maybe 3. And same thing with here. I can reduce it. Actually, when I'm reducing it, it creates a, create this shorter wave. Maybe that's actually better this way. Let me take a look. At 100%. Yeah, still, that is strange. Why that building is over there? A scale? I think a scale has something to do with it. Yeah. "100% looks correct." At 100% looks perfect. You know what? For some reason, at 150 was just too much. Yeah. It goes past the building. Huh. Anyway, there's a couple of things that still I have to play with this thing. As you can see, the buildings are off now. I hope it's nothing to do with the drone itself with this filter that's causing a problem. If the videos are not exactly same size, we might run into a bit of an issue. So one thing I can fix though, one thing I can look into, maybe can solve my problem, is this. I think I know what the problem is, why these buildings don't line up. Is this guy in here. This composition bugs me. I'd rather to line up the composition in 1080 like this. I think this is a better option for me. And then I will scale this thing up. I know it doesn't make any difference. It feels like I'm basically repeating the same thing. Look. I better get rid of, make this one to 150. I know I just made a composition twice the size to match the city. I think the city was the problem. The city got cropped at 720. Then when I imported, it just didn't line up, no matter what I did. So that problem was the city didn't line up. I think that this thing was okay. I think this was okay. Even my wave were okay. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna copy this thing. My wave was okay. Let me just delete this thing and paste it here. And then I'm gonna adjust the code again. Yeah, I need to recode it. Well, this is something you guys can learn from these mistakes, because I'm experimenting with a lot of these things. Remember, I don't have a clear guide for this thing. I know what I want to create, but sometimes when you planning to do something, it doesn't work. I just gotta backstep it. I'm just gonna come back and redo the certain part. The idea is the same thing though. What I want to achieve is exactly the same thing, but sometimes the result doesn't look good. So I have to go a couple of steps backwards and then look at it differently, and I redo the same thing. So literally I move the scale from one composition to another composition. So look, I made the same thing again. This time I put into a luma, and it's the same thing. But if I go back again, the buildings lines up. If I put it to 100%, and it does line up. I knew it. See now? The building looks like a wave is shivering the building. So there should not be any holographic image or a ghost in there. It can't be a ghost, because I used the original city. The background city was the same video. So why I had a double ghost? And that usually give me an idea of something's misaligned. I thought maybe I'll move something off the screen, but I didn't. Now you can see how it look like. I don't need to hide my opacity anymore. I'll leave it like this. And also, this doesn't have to be underneath of it. I'll put it above it, because above it creates the heat to the engine. So it's like this. And it creates a very nice distortion. Obviously, I can put it underneath. Then the engine looks kind of dark. Or I can put it on top. I will go on the top to show you a little trick. This area there, as you can see, some of the wave passed through it. You guys can apply or fix things with the opacity. You can go and find a spot that, for example, here cause a problem with opacity, and then reduce the opacity of it. T. If I reduce the opacity, look. You can also mask it too, right? Because in this case, what you can do, you can create a mask, something like this. And then you invert the mask by selecting a subtract. So you can preserve the engine from it, and you can just feather it, feather the little spot there. And the only thing is, you got to track the mask because you're on a layer exhaust, so that doesn't make any sense. You have to select the drone, track the drone. So as you can see, it can create a much more complex that I don't have time literally to show you guys. I got 15 minutes to add the lighting effect. So I would probably put it underneath of it and then simplify it. But I like the way the building actually react to the heat. Let me save the project before I do anything else. And now about the final thing. I need to light them up and make it look like a real thing. So I would grab one of the clips I imported. I'm going to sort them by the type. And I have a clip here called whatever highlight. Let's take a look at this one. And that's not too bad. I personally like this one, 14405F, this one. This is more like a some sort of searchlight on top of the building. That's more like a Blade Runner style. So I'm going to grab that clip and place it over the drone and exhaust here. Most likely this clip has to be scaled by much higher number. I will scale it, I have no idea. I can also go to the layer, transform, and select fit to composition. And when I play it, at least the duration is fine. And I use the option for a blend mode as an add. This should give you a very nice, see, highlighter, just like the sunlight. It looks like a sunlight, but it's not, but somewhere in between. I'll grab another one because I like this one and it looks pretty good. I'll put one on top of the other one. I also grab this layer, and when I transform it to fit it, I like to create a bit of a special option with this thing. For example, I like to flip it horizontally, so you got two of them. I will go to my layer, transform, flip horizontal, or you guys can type a first number of a scale horizontally. So now it's in the other angle. When I blend it again with the add, I have two of them. Obviously, this will create a really weird effect. So in order for me to fix that effect, I have multiple options. First of all, I'm looking at the duration of the clip. This clip is 12 seconds and 15. So simply, I'll grab this clip and I move it forward until it hit the end of a timeline. There's a shortcut for it, by the way. I can bring it forward right there. I hit the end key, then I hit the close the square bracket. That fitted to the end of a timeline. So I have one of them appear this way and the other one appear after, right there. Despite there are two of them, they don't look that bad. I most likely need another layer for a color correction to put it on top of it. So I right click down here and create a new adjustment layer. This adjustment layer doesn't have to be applied to any kind of holographic images, so I'll go down and place it very much over everything but the holographic one. I'm just going to close those guys up. And when it comes to the filter for this thing, I'm most likely going to use a lumetri filter. So I'll go to the effect, make sure this layer is selected, effect, color correction. I select lumetri color. The reason I'm using lumetri because, again, I don't have much of a time to explain the color correction and go through it. I'm just going to cheat by going to the creative part and change something to make it bluish, like the way Blade Runner is. I have a blue cold. I have a blue dynamite. Oh, that's not a blue, that's a different one. How about blue steel? Not bad. I can also increase the intensity of it to, let's say, 200. Then I will go to the adjustments and I push the highlight towards the blue. As you can see, the sky and even a sunset turns into a blue. And I grab a shadow and shift it a little bit towards the blue as well, just a tiny. So when I play it, you'll probably see things getting a little bit crazy here. And I agree with you. So in order to tone these guys down, I need to select these videos underneath of it, and I'm going to tone the opacity down until I don't have any clipping color. And I have 2 of them, right? So I'll put them about 25%. One of these guys is supposed to be flipped, but to me, this seems like they haven't flipped properly. I do remember I select flip horizontal, didn't I? I select flip vertical, flip horizontal. Huh, is it possible I select flip vertical accidentally? It's possible. Anything is possible. Let's just say I don't remember. Yes, I did. Thanks to a scale, isn't it? All I need to do, reset it, fit it, unlink it, change the first number to minus. This definitely is flip horizontally now. Now I can reduce this. Make sure there's no clipping between the 2 of them. Now, should be around 20 to 30 should be all right. So let's play it, see how it look like. It's slowly getting there, right? Looks like more like a Blade Runner style lighting. I have other clips there. As I said, there's this one as well. I haven't really added there. You can just add that one on top of it. And then again, use the add or screen to just blend them. I'll go with a lighten. This one will create some sort of like an alien effect if you needed to. The color is too strong because my color correction, my adjustment is just too strong. I could just reduce the intensity of it to, let's say, 150 instead, rather than 200. That should basically knock a lot of things out. It still, there's a little bit of extra in there, maybe at 100. And yeah, no matter what I do, there's just too much in there. The lighten, I'm gonna change this thing to a different, tone it down a little bit. Soft light maybe. Yep, soft light. Soft light create a ghost effect, like a cloud. So it looks like there's a cloud going on in there, like this. I don't know, looks too cheesy. I don't like it. Normally looks better, I think, with these 2. Yep, with these 2 looks better. And again, these 2 are add. If you want, you can go with a soft light or even an overlay to create, and you can have a stronger opacity if you wanted to with the overlay. With the stronger opacity seems like it's actually causing a counterintuitive, so I'm going to go with the lighten or screen. These are lighten or screen. These are, especially a screen is not as harsh as the add is, so you have a little bit more room to play with the opacity values. So I can just knock the opacity down. As you can see, around 70%, I get away with it. Previously, I had to bring it down to 25%. So things about playing with these things until you very much get what you want. And this need a few more minutes of playing with it. Is there anything else I have in there that I want to try? I think I tried that one already. That one we decided not to go with this. And what about this one? Yeah, this is almost the same thing as the previous one. It looks kind of ghosty. So let's see. Again, you never know until you try, right? Nah, it might work. It might work in a toned down version of it and a very low opacity. I hope I can add just a little bit to it. Yep. Yeah, it does work. Push this thing a little bit more. Also, blue ice looks good too. Blue ice. So I'm not sure blue ice looks better or blue steel. Blue steel looks nicer, looks a little bit more darker. And eventually I will turn all the layers on and let's take a look at rendering at full screen. That's going to be an interesting show. I hit the home key. I have a browser running on my other screen. I better close the browser and everything else. The only application I have right now is literally running is the mouse application and Adobe After Effects. And a go-to meeting, my task manager, and After Effects. There's nothing else. After Effects only runs the engine and interface. Everything else is being minimized. I don't know why Adobe Update's always running, but let's take a look. I'm gonna go to 100%. Maybe I should put it to fit at 92%. One more thing. I gotta turn this thing off. And let's try this. It's frame by frame rendering. It's not bad. 20 gig at the moment. 21. It's going up. I can see it. 22. 23. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, as you can see, it's going up. And it's getting louder, isn't it? The graphic cards are all working, and let's see what we can do with this. Boy, it's getting hot in here, and this laptop is what's the temperature anyway? Oh, it's coming down. It was like 90 degrees inside the laptop, and it's fun. It's done. There you go. Funny, you don't even see the heat anymore. I do see it though when I look at the building right there. Right there. We did a lot of work for just a little thing. There you have it, my friends. Anyway, wish you guys the best luck and have a good weekend. And hopefully I'll see you guys next time in the next Adobe After Effects or Premiere or Photoshop or Illustrator event, whatever it is I'm showing. Hopefully I'll see you guys again. And take care. Bye-bye for now.